Hey everyone, welcome to It Tastes Different. And today I'm going to review the DualSense Edge. Now I got the DualSense Edge when it came out, but how is it? Everyone might be thinking of picking one of these up, and you may want to know, is it worth buying? The DualSense Edge, so it comes with, of course, you got the box, which I have over there, but comes with the case for it. It is like a solid plastic case. Let me go ahead and open it up here. Inside, you have the paddles, two different types of paddles. A long paddle here. You can see these are long paddles that go on the back. And I'll show those off here in a second. The short paddles, little bitty tiny ones here, that can also go on the back. You also have different caps for the thumbsticks, and then this little plastic piece here, which is for the braided USB-C cable that it comes with. It also has a flap on the back here, which you can, I guess, use to put your USB-C cable through if you want to plug in your controller and have it sitting in here. And then a nice little pocket up here to put your USB-C cable in. So that's essentially what you get with it, of course, with the controller. So here's the controller. Here we have some different, it looks really nice. On the touchpad, you have the PlayStation symbols, the X, triangle, square, circle. On the back, you have the trigger and, different options for how far the triggers go down whenever you're pushing them down. The intensity of the trigger is high, means it's a full press, all the way down to low, which means it's a short press, right? Of course, back here, they have the holes for the paddles, right? We can stick a paddle in, maybe, possibly. I always have trouble getting these paddles in there. There we go. So let me get these paddles in. There we go. So we got the paddles in. These are the long paddles. So you're playing your game, you can use that. You can customize everything with this controller. What the paddle buttons do, and as well as, what all the buttons on the controller do. That's not correct. I think it goes on the other side. But what all the buttons do, you can customize it all the way down to what every single button does on the controller. So, which is cool, which is very similar to the Xbox Series controller, where you can customize it down to, what every button does. These are the small ones here. Maybe it's a little bit better. I'm not a big fan of the big paddles, but this might be, if you need that extra and don't want the big paddles kind of being in the way, this smaller paddle might be helpful to you. And they're not too difficult to get in and out. So, also on this, you have this little, they call them the function keys here. And when you press them down in game or when you're on the PlayStation, it opens up a little function menu which you can easily get to, adjusting like game audio, chat audio, and also switching profiles quickly. So it opens a little sub menu where you can just quickly switch profiles. If you have several profiles set up for maybe different games like FPSs versus RPGs, you can hit that and then switch profiles if you have different setup for it. It also has this release trigger here, which it's not like a switch. I mean, it is like a switch, but you have to hold the switch down and then pull it out. But oops, I just turned it on. But anyway, it takes this bottom part off, I guess to help take the caps off. I'm not exactly sure what it's for, but I accidentally turned it on. Other than that, it does weigh more than a regular DualSense. So here's a DualSense, right? And then here is the DualSense and then DualSense Edge. in comparison, they're pretty much the same size as far as size goes. Back to back here. Try to size it up, see? Like that. But they, this one does way more. I think this one's like 330 grams, whereas the DualSense is like 200 and something grams. So they are, it does way more. So if you like a heavier controller, this would, you wouldn't buy it for that fact, right? It's a $200 controller, so you wouldn't buy it for the fact of it's heavier. But if you like, that could be a benefit. Let me turn this for my PlayStation off. There we go. That could be a benefit, for one of the benefits for having this controller. Is the main benefit, of course, being the customization. Inside the customization options, you can turn things on and off, such as the intensity of the haptic feedback on the triggers, vibration intensity, again, adjusting what all the buttons do, how your trigger intensity, how much it takes for you to, how lightly you have to pull the trigger to make it go down all the way, besides the function buttons on the back, right? The intensity of the trigger pull, right? And then it's USB-C, which is still the same as a regular DualSense. And pretty much, other than that, it's nice. You can tell that it's it has some grip here. So this is definitely not, this is not plastic like on the DualSense, where this is just plastic here. This is kind of like a rubberized feeling grip down here. So that helps with holding it. Other than that, it comes in the standard black and white PlayStation 5 colors. So you don't get these cool different colors. Not yet, anyway, right? So is it worth it? Yes and no, right? It depends. If you like the customization options, it's definitely going to be worth it for you to get it for that fact. If you want to fully customize and have an officially branded, because there are other fully customizable controllers out there, like the Scuffs and various stuff like that. But if you want a fully customizable Sony branded controller, this is a way you can go along with it. And I like the heftiness of it. It is the controller I use when I do play my PlayStation. The only thing that, a couple of things that they don't have, that the Xbox Elite controller, this is my Elite controller, and, again, with the Elite controller, you have the intensity, same thing, pretty much same thing as the DualSense, except for you do have 4 paddles on the back instead of 2, right? So it allows for more customization. And also, the biggest draw to the between the PlayStation DualSense and like something like this Xbox Elite controller, or possibly even some of the other third-party controllers, is battery life. The battery life for a DualSense Edge, it doesn't last very long. It's a very short battery life. And that's one of the biggest flaws for this device, right? You would probably get about 5 or 6 hours of battery life fully charged. Not to say it would die out, but you would be getting, after probably about 6 hours, and depending on what features you have on, right? That's also dependent. But I mean, that's the whole point of buying one of these, right? Is to have all the features on and not turn them all off. Then you might as well just buy a regular controller. But with all the features on and various settings and stuff like that on, you're going to get 5 or 6 hours by at least the 6 hour mark, if not beforehand. Your controller probably won't be dead by then, but you'll get a notification on PlayStation that the battery is dying, right? So depending on how long of a play session that you have, more than likely you're going to end up, in most cases, not every case, but in most cases, charging it, putting it on a charger at the end of the night. Whereas the Xbox Series Elite 2 controller, I can have this controller out for days. I mean, this thing, for the full charge, this thing lasts days on end. Days, at least a week, it seems like. I haven't really calculated the entire time, but it's definitely a lot longer. It's a lot longer than a DualSense Edge, and it's also a lot longer than a DualSense, right? That's one thing I was hoping for the DualSense Edge, and we did get, and we talked about it on here about the battery life being considerably shorter, and that is the case, right? The battery life for these is considerably shorter than a DualSense Edge or a DualSense, and the DualSense alone didn't have a long battery life to begin with. And so I wish, I don't know what Sony could have done. Maybe different controller design, maybe, making it bigger as a controller, like still the DualSense, but bigger, to incorporate a bigger battery in it, right? Because that's one of the things besides the customization options for my Series Elite, that's one of the things I love about that controller is it lasts forever, like forever. It's like, battery never dies, it feels like. Whereas this, it's like, I love it, other than the fact that the battery dies. I'll be halfway through a gaming session and get a notification that my battery's low. And I'm like, seriously, didn't I just take this off the charger? Also, thing that sucks too for this, compared to like the series, which is something I wish they would have done as well, is the DualSense included a braided USB-C cable. It's a very long cable, but that's the only way to charge it. Whereas the Xbox Elite, you charge it in the case, right? It actually has a magnetic stand that comes with it inside the actual case. The case very similar to this one, right? And then you just plop your controller in there, and it magnetically attaches to the charger inside the case, and it charges your controller. So I would love to be able to do the same thing with this, right? Threading the braided cable through here and then plugging it in, it's still a pain in the ass, because you gotta you can't just plop it down in there. You gotta grab the cable, kind of pull it through, plug it in. I mean, it's already pulled through, but you gotta grab it, plug it in, make sure it's in there. And then you can plop the controller down in here and let it charge. But I have one of those charging stations that you just set the controller on top of and it charges, and I just use that. I even use that with my DualSense Edge, because it's just easier than using the braided cable. Even though the cable's long, and that's good, and it's a nice cable. I don't have the cable here; it's all plugged in and behind my crap over there. But the main issue is not having that ability, and the the battery life for this thing. And this, if you were wondering, this is to this little piece here is to basically, if you're gaming on your PlayStation DualSense while it's plugged in with the braided cable, you basically feed the cable through here and attach it to the top of your in some form or fashion. Yeah, you're supposed to be able to attach it, from my understanding, attach it to the top. Let me see if I can figure this out real quick. I don't even know how it would attach. I've never used it, clearly. Oh. Yeah. Well, I see how it's supposed to go in, but there we go. Got it. Boom. So it's got this little lock here that goes into the holes that are right next to the USB-C, and it basically hooks into here, and then you would thread your cable through here so it doesn't bend on the USB-C connector, and then you would have it plugged in and playing. But cool, I guess. But, that was their idea for, I feel like, because the battery life sucks in this, they're like, oh, just plug it in. But it's that's not the point. We don't want to, otherwise you can just go out and buy a corded cable or a corded controller. People don't want to plug it in and play, right? They want to be able to have it not plugged in most cases, right? Everybody's different, but most people would want it not plugged in while they're playing their games, and only plug it in to charge, not to plug in and play, right? So yeah, that's that. But ultimately, is the PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge controller worth it? That's what you've been waiting for. Is it worth it? And I would say maybe. It just depends I do enjoy it. I do like it. I think Sony's got a good thing going here as far as the customization options and the feel for this controller, but they need to work on some kinks, right? So the being able to charge it in the case like the Series X controller, like the Series 2 controller can do, and the 4 paddles on the back, like I understand they don't have the room for that. I mean, they possibly could. They could put one right here and one right here, right? Instead of having it in the center. But I don't know how that would feel ergonomically while you're holding it in your hand, right? So I would say, like, it depends. If you want those customization options, being able to fully customize your controller, and you're not too worried about battery life, then I would say, yeah, it's definitely worth it. They are expensive controllers, so keep that in mind, but it's definitely worth it for that. If you're not big into that, I would just stick with the standard old DualSense controller, because regardless of what you may or may not think, I think that PlayStation knocked it out of the park with these controllers. I think these controllers are awesome. I think they're probably the best iteration of the DualSense or the Dual Edge or their Dual Shock, right? Controllers that they've made so far. I think this is the best ones they've made. So this is just an extension of that. But I think hopefully they make a Dual Edge 2, and it turns out that they fix these kind of quality of life issues, right? The battery life and being able to plop it into the case and charge it. So it's a good first attempt, right? I don't discount it. It just depends on your needs and stuff. And there are some third-party ones out there that are around the same price that may work better in your favor, right? They may work better for your needs. It just depends on your needs and wants for these types of controllers. I think the Xbox Series 2 Elite controller is an awesome controller, and probably one of the best controllers out there. But Microsoft, they've had their Elite controllers for a while now, right? This is the second iteration of it. So they've been able to hone and fix some things that have been plagued since the first series controllers, right? And so I think Sony just needs to be able to do the same here. So again, is it worth it? It just depends. Do you think it's worth it? If you think so, go out there and you can grab one. Again, they're like $200, so may not be your first choice. But if you don't find that you're really needing the customization options or the trigger intensity options or the paddles and things like that, like if none of that, interests you in any sense of the word, then this is probably not worth it, right? If you just like, don't just get the controller because you like the look of it, right? I mean, you can do what you want, but I'm just saying, like, they are nice looking controllers and they feel really nice in your hand, but that shouldn't be the only option, right? DualSense makes, Sony makes a bunch of different colors. I have all sorts of different colors. It's just the one I brought as an example. And there's nothing wrong with those. You just can't customize them like you can the DualSense Edge. So let me know down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you have a DualSense Edge? And if you do, what do you think about it? I mean, this is what I play with, right? When I play my PlayStation, this is the controller I use. I just wish there were some things about it, like battery life and, being able to charge it through while sitting in the case would be nice to have. I think the biggest thing for me is battery life, right? The case thing is cool. It's nice with my Series 2 controller, but it's not the end all be all. But the battery life certainly can use an upgrade, right? But let me know down in the comments below. Let us know here at It Tastes Different. What if you have one, or if you're thinking about getting one, if you have any questions about the DualSense that I could possibly answer, let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully I've covered everything. But if there's anything that you're wondering about, just ask me down there and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. But other than that, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed my commentary on the DualSense Edge. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. And other than that, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.